I don't think that a lot of men realize how scary just they are.
Hi, my name is Dae. I'm from New Jersey originally, and I'm a publicist here in LA.
Hi guys, I'm Brett, and I work in film.
I'm Gabi, and I work in film as well. I act.
Hi everyone, I'm Koree. I'm from Los Angeles, and I'm in advertising and recruiting.
My name is Farhoud. I'm born and raised in LA, and I'm a writer and a director.
My name is Joe, 25 years old, and I'm marketing coordinator here in LA.
Men and women are inherently different.
Not to say that this is like a sound fact or that there aren't exceptions, but I think men are they're built differently. They're stronger usually. I can say physically is one inherent difference.
Obviously, it changes based on like their race and gender, or like where they're from and stuff like that. But I think that women tend to sometimes be a lot more over emotional, and where men tend to kind of respond a little bit more stoically. And that might not be the most like perfect way to say it, but I think it is.
Do you think that's a natural way that we're born to be, or do you think that's how we're brought up?
I think it's a mixture of both. Or it might just be how society has ingrained it, and they should react to certain things too.
Yeah.
Men are supposed to be this like sometimes uncompromising, not unemotional person, whereas women are supposed to be emotional. And so I think that people sometimes like fall into those categories even when they're not supposed to be.
I feel like, even as a man, how I approach a problem is like, oh, how can I fix this thing? Whereas like a lot of my female friends are like, I don't need to fix it. I just need to listen to this person. and like for me, like that's just not my natural impulse.
Yeah, good. I think there's so many men who people will say, oh yeah, men are always strong or always this or always that. Well, tell that to a female UFC fighter, she'll kick their ass.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? And there are also
That's why I said there's exceptions.
Yeah, there are a lot of people.
Very much so.
But there are a lot of people who will say, oh, women are always hyper emotional, and then tell that to a bleeding heart guy who's just like the biggest, most passionate person. I mean, so I just think generalization is always problematic.
My husband he's one of those guys that cries in like every movie, and like I love that. And I'm like a very assertive, fiery person, which is like generally attributed to masculine quality, which in itself is problematic, that we think like strength is masculine, problem solving is masculine. We're all capable, and we're all also have our weaknesses.
There are disadvantages in having my gender.
Ooh, we got a late comer. Okay, come in.
Definitely, I've experienced a lot of disadvantages, particularly in the workforce. In my position, I'm pretty high up. I kind of sit on the right hand of the president, but it's just kind of interesting how I'm always left with all of these like administrative tasks. You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, what about him and him and him and him and him? But it's just, I think it's natural for people to associate administrative work with it's a feminine role.
Same. I work at a hardware store, and which is I get looked over all the time because I'm like, hi, how can I help you? And they go, I'm gonna ask this guy, like literally just, or not even talk to me. They'll just walk right past me and go ask a man. To touch on more like disadvantages, like just having to think, I think to be more conscious of a lot of things. Like people say like walking to your car at night or going for a jog or just anything at night really.
In thinking about it, I was like, well, what is the disadvantage of being a man? And I thought back to when I was 6, 7, 8, and I was in the schoolyard and in the classroom, and my friends started to police me. Because the girls weren't getting policed, from what I understand, the way that the boys were. Because the boys were being told, don't be like a girl, don't cry, don't share your emotions, don't show your feelings. Because I wanted to fit in, I embodied those ideas.
When I was considering this question, do I have disadvantages based on my gender? Impulse was just no. Like, as a white man who've raised in middle class America, like right off the bat, you have so many like lack of barriers, I should say. You have a lack of barriers for opportunity.
Men should hold doors open for women.
Well, I just would like to let everyone know that I do not open my own doors. So, no, but seriously though, so if I'm with a male, if I'm walking to a door, I won't touch the door. However, if I do open a door, if I'm by myself and there's people behind me, I'm keeping it open, whole family, females, males, no problem at all. But if I am with a male, I will not open the door.
So you just stand there?
Yeah, and look real stupid too, because they usually stand there like as a joke, and I'm like,
Where does that expectation come from for you?
I'm sure it was just the way I was raised.
For me, as a guy, like my instinct is like, how my dad taught me and my brothers is just like, treat women with the utmost respect and honor. I feel like chivalry is just something that I'm like, this is absolutely something I want to step into and to continue and uphold.
I think that's like a really beautiful way to put it. I also think it's not true. Like that's not born out of like serve because she's up here. No. It's because we don't, it's the opposite of empowerment. The same reason why a guy doesn't think that you know what screw that is the same reason why they think they have to open the door, or why it hurts, why chivalry can hurt. Because the idea that like we have to protect and we have to like do things for them, it translates, it's equal to the idea that because they are unable to.
I usually feel safe when I'm with the other gender.
Generally speaking, I always feel pretty comfortable when I'm with the opposite gender. I'm the youngest and I have 3 brothers. And I have a lot of male figures in my life. So I think that may influence my feelings on that.
I grew up in a family full of women. Literally, mom had like 3 sisters. Like all of them had pretty much girls until I was about 13. So 100% feel like I'm comfortable with women being around me. I'm a gay black man, so literally the community just for gay black people, or just for gay people in general, you always have like your best girlfriend that's gonna be there on your side, regardless of whether you just met them or whether you've known them for 25 years.
I don't think that a lot of men realize how scary just they are, and how many men just hanging out like feel like, oh, that girl could literally kill me. Like that's a true thing.
Come from a family that's like has really strong female personalities, you don't doubt anything that they can do, because they were the defenders of the family. They were the ones that raised everybody. They were the strongest people in the family. So I don't know. I understand
I mean, I in high school, like I was on the wrestling team. I was one of 3 girls on the all-boy wrestling team. And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. Like I'm one of the guys, this is cool. And one of the guys like held a knife to my throat, like behind the bleachers at a game. And you want to be able to trust and be like, okay, I don't know you, so I'm gonna give you my trust for a little bit, and then all of a sudden you're on top of me. When do I choose? Like who do I choose? And so it's like I've never had that with a woman, so.
I'm comfortable showing my emotions.
I don't think I've always been comfortable, and I am a very private person. And so I'm very intentional about the relationships that I build and about the people who I am vulnerable to.
I wasn't always comfortable sharing my emotions. I
sure.
think from childhood to, my mid-20s or so, I think it was more of just like this, let me bottle it up. I'll share with a few people, but it wasn't something I would share freely. And I think now where I'm at is I see true power and vulnerability.
Absolutely.
To share and not fear judgment or shame.
When I am strong in the way that I talk, and just being strong, people are like, "Oh, you're angry. You don't make sense." I'm like, "No, I make a lot of sense right now." Just the fact that I have an emotion makes me unreliable in some way in people's eyes. Like, we can't have a woman running the country. What if she's on her period? We'll go to war. Well, I haven't seen it yet. I am only uncomfortable in how I am perceived because I do want to be perceived as a competent person and somebody to be trusted.
I've taught myself to become emotional, but from my family and from being a black person in America, I don't think that I am comfortable being emotional. I feel like it's like me losing control, it's me being vulnerable, and I don't like being vulnerable to anybody unless I choose to. And I think it's a sad thing because I should be able to cry whenever I feel like it, but I don't. Or if I do cry, I lost a family member last year and broke into tears in work. As soon as I realized that I was crying, I stopped and I said, I have to go home, I apologize, I'm leaving right now. And that's just how I had to respond to it. And I don't think that's healthy, but it's something that's just my personal experience when it comes to being a male, a black male in America.
I feel understood by the other gender.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to just women being the most approachable people that I can come to and talk about anything. When it comes to me or just my experiences or the things that I've had to go through, they're a lot more understanding and I don't know, I just feel safe.
My experience, again, with the opposite sex has been pleasant, my entire life. I've always felt comfortable. I've always felt understood. I've always felt like I had a voice, even if it's not, again, the voice in the conference room. I always felt like I've always been respected.
Well, I think as a general swath, looking at it that way, no, men don't understand women, and it's because we're looking at it as two different things. Even the idea of being assertive comes off as being a bitch.
Are you speaking from a personal place or a societal place? Because I feel like you speak from a very big place instead of
it's all the same.
Because the question was I, not society.
Yeah. Do I feel understood by men?
Yeah.
No, because they don't view me as an equal.
Can I ask you a question? In this space, do you feel understood?
I feel understood equally by all parties.
Great.
Not but
That's a start.
I believe that we're all image bearers, image bearers of God, and that we're equal, and we're given these different roles to fulfill. When you see two people dancing, and it's a beautiful, choreographed, equal dance, no one's outshowing the other person. But when it comes to relationships with men and women, I feel like these different roles can be such a beautiful thing when done right, but can also be a disaster if one person is, trying to outperform, or another person is taking advantage or overstepping.
Like you said, there's such a beauty in differences and in masculinity and femininity, and it's important to have both in yourself.
Okay, go team.
Hey, so glad. We need a picture.
You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome.
You guys